Six Nations Team of the Week for the final round. We'll do a Team of the Tournament in a little while, but we'll get through the Team of the Week first. We'll go through 15 key players plus a few honourable mentions, some key stats and moments and whatnot as to why they have been chosen. As always, far from a perfect team. Just 15 guys that I thought played pretty well at the weekend. You know, I love try scorers and I love the guys who played on winning teams, but every team was represented. And yeah, as always, you guys let me know your thoughts. If you want rugby gear, England Rugby Store, Lions Rugby Store, both having sales on. Link in the description if you guys want rugby gear. As a guy with a lot of rugby gear, you also know I'm partial to a discount, and both of them are having them at the moment. So check those out if interested. And I've cheated a little bit this week in guys out of position. But I will start with a prop. And it's an Italian prop, to be fair. I don't think I've ever had as many Italians in a Team of the Week ever. I've gone with DANILO Fischetti, the loose head prop from Italy. The guy was pretty busy. He played nigh on, it must have been over an hour actually, in his game against the Welsh, and he had a pretty good shift, man. Prop in the scrum. I don't think he conceded any penalties at scrum time. He conceded a couple around the park. But I mean, if you watch that game, you will know that guy's presence at the breakdown was very much felt. I mean, he has 3 runs for 4 meters, which is pretty prop-like, but he's doing other stuff which you may not even notice. Like he's credited with 2 turnovers. At least one of them leads directly to a penalty, so it's directly worth 3 points because it was pretty much right out in front. But there's like one moment in this game where the Italians run it out of their own goal area. Lamaro just hoofs it downfield, and guess who's one of the first players to arrive? It's your loose head prop. So the guy was just absolutely full of running. That was in the second half as well. He makes 11 from 12 tackles. He has 3 passes, 2 turnovers, one like I mentioned. He does concede 2 penalties. I think the one tackle he misses, I think, is the one on Dewey Lake who goes over for a try. So if you wanted like a black mark, that's probably it. But honestly, man, the guy was everywhere. First guy to arrive at a kick chase, winning turnovers, prop in the scrum. A proper good shift from the Italian loose head. Now the other prop, I've gone with another loose head because it was a day for the loose heads, and like I could have gone with multiple guys. I could have gone with another one who I've left out actually, but I've gone with PIERRE SCHOEMAN from Scotland, although they insist on calling him Schumann on the commentary I had. SCHOEMAN scored the 1 try of the game. For the Scots, if you saw that one, he's a wee dummy and he looks up and sees a winger, Mac Hansen, guarding the goal line, and goes, I can beat him. And sure enough, he burrows under, gets the ball over the line for the try. 10 runs for 48 metres. This is all using Opta's stats, I should mention. Not quite as generous as the Six Nations stats, but 48 run metres for a prop is a phenomenal shift. He's even credited with a clean break. What's he doing getting that? He has a pass, 10 from 10 tackles. Scrummages pretty well, but yeah, man, what can I say? PIERRE SCHOEMAN is taken to the international scene really, really well, and he avoids 2 TMO calls. Like TMOs, when they get in the ear of the ref, there's like an 80-90% chance. I don't have an official stat for it, but generally, if the TMO gets the ref on the horn, they're usually gonna ping the player for whatever it is the TMO has called him on. Twice at SCHOEMAN, once for the try and once for a tackle or for a bracing carry, and both times PIERRE is found innocent. So well done. The TMO was gunning for him, but couldn't quite get him past the old Wayne Barnes, who denied the TMO. So there you go. There's your props. The other one I was mentioning, you could have gone with Healy, another loose head. Like he had a cracking effort as well for Ireland, didn't he? So I mean, and likewise Genji. Genji had a pretty big shift for England. So the loose heads, it was all about the loose heads this week. Hooker, I have gone with SHEEHAN from Ireland, stepping into some pretty big shoes. He's only really new onto the international scene, but he's another guy who looked very comfortable, didn't he? He scores his try pretty well. He has 15 runs for 31 metres, so very busy. I think he gets man of the match. Like he is just everywhere. 9 from 10 tackles for him, beats 3 defenders. The line out operates at 95%. I think it's Ferguson, Matt rather than Xander, who steals one of his line-out balls, but ultimately the line-out was running pretty well, and he's kind of a key part of that. Like, if you go back and watch, I just watched the highlights now, and like, in the lead-up to a lot of Ireland's go forward moves, there's him making a carry, getting over the advantage line, just kind of keeping up with that high intensity play. So he's doing that really well, and long may that continue. So yeah, doing pretty well, elevated to the top job with Kelleher out injured. Locks, I have ended up going with another Irishman here. Didn't have his best effort the week before, but I thought Ian Henderson was actually pretty solid. I wouldn't say any of the locks were like absolutely phenomenal this week. Like no lock is getting player of the week. But I mean, in the air especially, Henderson, I mean 10 line-out wins is far more than anybody else. It's his line-out win that leads directly to the SHEEHAN try, because he gets a nice clean ball and pulls that more forward. So doing well from him. He has 8 from 9 tackles. He has 7 passes, so he's getting his hands on the ball. He doesn't concede any penalties, which is a big step up from last week when he was on the wrong side of the ref's whistle. He makes 3 carries for 7 metres, which is solid. He does concede 2 turnovers, but ultimately I thought Hendo, especially in the air, running that line out, put in a really good shift. So good to see a bounce back after last week. And I've gone another Italian, one of my personal favourites. I got to admit, Federico RUZZA. He's got one of the best kind of glares in world rugby with like really piercing eyes, which is just kind of by the by. But he puts in another busy shift as well. 5 runs, 12 metres is actually a pretty bloody good return for a lock, because locks, I'll have to do the stats on it one day, but they don't usually average above 2 metres a carry, especially if you go and buy the Opta stats rather than the Six Nations ones. He beats a defender. He makes all his tackles 12 from 12. The Six Nations stats credit him with a dominant tackle in there as well. He's busy in the air as well, makes 4 line-out wins. Does concede 1 penalty for a negative step, but overall, RUZZA's had a pretty good campaign as well, but it's nice to kind of give him credit here. As I said, in a week where none of these guys, like Henderson and RUZZA, are nowhere near like player of the week. Neither of them was man of the match in their games, but just like, you know, getting through their call role really well, I thought. Lucy's, and I'm still kind of bemused, confused as to how Francois CROS was able to score his try. He doesn't do a lot ball in hand. Like, he has 4 runs for 5 metres. So he's not getting that far, but in that, he gets far enough to score a try. I've seen it back multiple times. I don't know how the hell he did that. I mean, I guess all he did was stick his hand out and put it on the line, but it doesn't seem possible given the bodies that were around him. But the awareness, the confidence, the presence of mind to be able to know that, yeah, I can get that. I'm not going to lose the ball. I can do it one-handed. Like, in a big game where France are fighting to clinch a Grand Slam, that's amazing. And he did it, man. Defensively, 13 from 14 tackles. He's been really busy on defense all season, all this Six Nations season for France. You know, he's not got the kind of ball carrying that Aldrit or some of the other Lucy's have, but he gets his try. That's his only try of the tournament, and gets through his work pretty well. Wins a line-out as well, if you want that. Doesn't concede penalties. So, yeah, another guy who gets through his court role really well. Another flanker on the open side, I've gone with old Josh van der Flier. Another guy who gets through a lot of work. He's been really good all tournament as well. I don't think I've picked him for a team of the week just yet, or have I? He scored a try, which was a really well taken one. I mean, he finishes with 8 runs and 24 metres, so there's not that much in terms of his meterage. It's solid, but man, his acceleration to go from more or less a standing start to go over for that try, and another guy who's showing good match awareness, like to move away from his support and just burrow over for the line, make a beeline for the line. Yeah, he did that really well. So good from him. He's just grown in confidence immensely this year. Beats a defender, has 7 passes, and surprise, surprise, he's one of the top tacklers with 15 from 17. Van der Flier has really come into his own, and it's really pleasing to see. Would have liked to get a bit more effect at the breakdown, I guess, but yeah, busy effort from him. And another Frenchman, I think, like, he's another potential candidate for man of the match. Basically, there's certain players that always get man of the match, right? DuPont, if he has a good game, is always probably likely to get man of the match, especially if it's a home game in France, because it's usually the home broadcast team that picks it. It's going to be the same with England for like Marcus Smith. There's certain players who just always get man of the match. Loose forwards are less likely to get it, but man, Aldred would have been putting his hand up for sure. He finishes with a try assist. He's the one who gets that pass away to DuPont, funnily enough, to set up that try. Those guys are a really good combo. He has 13 carries, which is busy, 27 meters. He has 7 passes and 2 offloads. As I said, one of those is a try assist. He makes 9 from 10 tackles. He wins 2 turnovers. He wins 3 lineouts. I mean, he does concede 2 penalties, but I mean, the best way to describe that guy is the everywhere man. And you notice it more if he wore a more colourful scrum cap. Like he wears a black one with like a fluoro yellow lining, I guess. So he's still noticeable, but if he was wearing red, you'd notice it even more. He's just everywhere. Like if you're looking at a breakdown, there he is. If you're looking at a guy cleaning out, there he is. If you're looking at a guy jumping in the line out, there he is. Like getting the key pass, there he is. He's just always there. So yeah, he's a coach's dream player because he's just so intense with his work rate. So yeah, really pleased for him. Doesn't get man of the match, but it doesn't matter. He gets a grand slam, which he'll be pretty happy with. So yeah, there's your forwards. Other guys I could have mentioned, Woki, in terms of the line out, was operating pretty well. I mean, both the French locks were good, to be fair. Willems has a bit of a physical presence. Underhill was back in his first game for England this year and got through a ton of defensive shift. Likewise, Hamish Watson made a ton of tackles for the Scots. Lamaro, I mean, the sevens always get through loads of work. So, and as I said, that kick that he put through was also a bit of a confident one. So, yeah, there's other guys you could have, but these are the ones I ended up going with. Scrum half, you're pretty much obliged, and rightly so, to go with Antoine Dupont. He does get man of the match. I don't hold that against him. Like, the guy always plays really well and does extraordinary things. But yeah, maybe we get just too used to that. He gets a try, which is a pretty key one in the context of that game to really put them beyond touching distance for England. He gets 6 runs for 43 meters, which is a hell of a return, to be fair. Like he gets some decent meters per carry, doesn't he? A clean break, 2 defenders beaten, 48 passes and an offload. He kicks the ball a ton as well. 12 from 14 tackles he's credited with at the end. He does concede a penalty and 2 turnovers conceded, but ultimately, man, the guy's a bit of a magician. He very rarely has a bad game. At worst, he's usually just quiet. And even his quiet game is at a pretty bloody good level, isn't it? So, yep, he was the captain. He gets to lift the trophy. He leads from the front. He's just absolute magician. So, be thankful you're living at a time when you get to see a guy like that play, because eventually you'll be an old rugby fan telling the younger generations about how good Dupont was, and they won't care. Because he'll be an old man by that point. I don't know, I get that feeling when I watch that guy. It's like when my dad tells me about players of his day, I very rarely go back and watch them. If you do, you'll usually be impressed, but there's nothing like seeing them when they're actually in their prime, and it's a live thing. So yeah, be thankful for that. I don't mean to try and wax lyrical about anything, but yeah, another French player, Romain Ntamack, ran the ball, set up the CROS try when he was, snuck in for a wee gap. He's not done a lot of that this tournament, but he gets 3 runs for 11 meters, which is a good return. He's got that try assist, which was that sweet pass out. I mean, it's a bounce pass in the end, but cut out pass out to Fiku, who goes over in loads of space. He somehow beats 2 defenders from 3 runs. So when he did run, it was very effective. 19 passes from him, 5 from 7 tackles. He does miss that one on Steward when England do score their 1 try, but he's trying to scramble across to close down the space, so he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing at that point. But 1 turnover conceded, 238 meters kicked. He doesn't do as much of the kicking as Dupont does by any means, but yeah, man, he's just been quietly pulling the strings. He's not got as much of the spotlight this year with Dupont getting much of that, but Ntamack is certainly a key man in their campaign. It's good to see him back at 10 and really running the show, because we didn't see enough of him at 10 last year, except for really at the end of the year. Midfield is another area I've cheated a little bit. I've picked a couple of 13s. So I have got a Welshman in here in Owen Watkin. Now, as is always the case with losing teams, the losing players don't get a heck of a lot of credit, because their team lost and you want to celebrate the winners more. But I mean, Watkin remember when they played Adams in the midfield, and then you've seen a bit of a difference when Watkins come in, right? He's just quietly been doing his thing. He scores a try, which is great. And to be fair, he was like really marshalling the team. Like right before that try, you can see him like organising the attack, which is, I'm not sure if that's normally his role. I haven't paid close enough attention, but he's certainly doing it for that one. He has 11 runs for 40 metres, which is busy and a good return. He has a clean break, beats 3 defenders. Like the try he gets, he goes right through a big old gap. Like it's proper good heads-up play. 4 passes and 3 offloads. Like he was distributing well. 5 from 6 tackles. One of them's a dominant one. So, yeah, I thought Watkin, like I said, in losing effort, no one's going to really talk about him, but if I was a Welsh fan, I'd be pretty pleased with how he's been kind of trucking along this season. Obviously, Wales are without some players. Like it'll be interesting to see what George North's role when he comes back. But Watkin, I think, is going to benefit from the exposure, even if it was a losing game. And the other guy, I've had to go with Gael Fiku. Another guy who pretty rarely has a bad game. He's one of the more experienced guys in that team, but by no means an old man yet, even if he is kind of one of the older guys in the squad in terms of like the number of caps he's got and the amount of years he's been around. Scores a try, 6 runs for 28 metres. Is like not his best numbers, but he's just always seems to be there as well. He gets a clean break and 4 defenders beaten from 6 runs. Like if you're talking about effectiveness, that's pretty bloody effective. So when he does do the job, he's doing it really well. 6 passes and 3 offloads just shows you how dangerous he is, because that's 50% of his passes are offloads. 7 from 10 tackles. He wins 2 turnovers as well. Like what doesn't the guy do? He's fantastic, and France are lucky to have him as well. But I can't just fill the board only with Frenchmen. I've got to get another Italian on here, and I've gone with Monty Ioane. Now, Monty Ioane is a guy, I think because he plays for Italy, who probably doesn't get talked up enough. Like if you're thinking of some of the best wingers in the world, he's probably not going to get talked up by many. And to be fair, his decision-making at one moment where he goes to try and beat Josh Adams on the outside is not the right one. But we saw Hogg make the same mistake in his game for Scotland. But he is honestly a deadly strike weapon for playing for a team which usually loses. In this game, he has 12 runs for 161 run meters. He's got more broken tackles in this game than anybody else with 7. He's got more broken tackles than anyone else in this tournament, and he's playing for the bottom team. He gets 3 clean breaks. He has 7 passes, 2 offloads, 4 from 6 tackles. He does have 2 turnovers conceded, but I mean, that one where he gets tackled by Adams, he goes close. He probably should have passed to Pettinelli because he had him outside him. He has another one where he just line breaks out of nowhere, and they almost go over in the corner a couple of phases later, but it doesn't end up happening. Hits his line break out of the zone kind of 22 that sets up Lamaro to kick it long, which then, Fischetti ends up getting over the ball. They end up winning a turnover, and then that ends up 3 points. So, honestly, man, like the guy, most run meters in the Six Nations, most broken tackles, like he, in terms of pure strike weapon, if he was playing for a team that was winning more, I think he would be getting more accolades. He's phenomenal. Like, as I said, like not everybody has to be like a broken tackles guy. Like, I mean, look at a guy like Villiers, who's also, having a fantastic tournament. So it's not all about that kind of one dimension, but man, he's just very good and very dangerous. So there you go, Monty Ioane. I'll stop talking about him. I've got an Englishman on here in the form of Freddie Steward. He scores the only try of the game for England. He has 7 runs for 65 metres, which is a really good return. A clean break, beats a defender. 1 from 3 tackles. He's not going to be too chuffed about, nor the turnover conceded or the penalty conceded. But there's a stat which doesn't really show, and that's just how good he is in the air. He was given the French fullback, Jaminet, a bit of a hard time. Like, I don't know what the catch rate was like for Jaminet, maybe 50%. But clearly they picked him on the wing to kick high balls to him, and he got a lot of them. So picked for that purpose, I think he did his job really well and was giving the French headaches. Absolutely. If it's not for the French able to win a lot of that ball back at the breakdown, then that probably causes more problems. But in terms of him doing his job, I think he did it pretty phenomenally well. So he's probably still better at fullback, but if you want to pick him on that role, on that right wing, like the All Blacks sometimes do it with Geordie Barrett, big tall guy out on the right wing, good in the air, it's certainly a tactic you can use. And you probably don't have to guess who I've picked. At fullback, he sets up the winning try of the game for the Italians. And he's looking pretty good 2 games in, man. Ange Capolozzo, that try assist, like he backs himself out of nowhere to get that run down the right wing. He beats Adams. I think he steps Kieran Hardy, I think. Like, yeah, he is just proper dangerous, isn't he? 12 runs, 111 run meters. He's only second to Ioane this week. A clean break, 5 defenders beaten, as I mentioned, the one on Adams. He has 11 passes and offloads, so his involvements are pretty high. He does concede a penalty. He's not credited with a turnover, but there's at least once when the ball's just sitting there, Welsh ball, and he just pinches it at the back of the ruck. He makes 5 from 5 tackles this week as well. One of them's Lewis Rees-Zammit at pace. So, yeah, better defensively. He got beaten at least once or twice in the Scottish game, but much better this week. And just the bravery on this guy. Like, he's in his own in-goal area, decides not to just dot it down and take the goal line dropout, but he keeps the ball alive. He's the one who offloads to Ioane. Ioane makes the break out of his own 22, gets it to Lamaro. Lamaro makes that kick. Fischetti is the guy who is one of the guys who gets over the ball. They win a penalty, 3 points. Like, that all comes from him not wanting to touch the ball down in his own in-goal area. What can I say? The guy's only a young man, but he's very confident. And, yeah, fingers crossed he stays fit and has a pretty good career ahead of him. So, yes, 21 minutes. I better wrap it up. Other guys I should mention, I forgot to mention Dewi Lake. Goodness me, for Wales, that was his best performance. But I had to go with SHEEHAN this week. But certainly Dewi Lake is worth a shout out. Some backs, Jamison Gerson Park ran the show pretty well at 9 again for Ireland. Likewise, Garbisi at 10 for the Italians. I think he caught a couple of high balls, which is not something he's usually renowned for. Kicked his goals as well. Villiers, I mentioned on the left wing for France, also gets them out of trouble, sometimes in impossible situations. Josh Adams scored a really good try for Wales, like a proper good individual try. Also gave away like 4 penalties, got them marched 10 metres, got beaten by a couple or so. So a bit of a mixed bag, although the moment with the medal, which I didn't see live because they cut off the coverage here, but I don't know whether he actually gave it or he offered it anyway to a couple or so. The man of the match medal was a really nice gesture. Padovani for Italy, also very good. Could easily be in the team. Marchant had some pretty good carries for England. Keenan, very stable at the back. James Lowe with that offload for the Conor Murray try was certainly a good moment. But yes, I could go on all day about some good players. But there is the 15 for the week. You guys do let me know your thoughts. Who would you have if you're picking a 15? Certainly more Italians than I have ever had on the board in one video. Probably this is more than I've had the entire tournament. But credit to them. Congratulations once again to Ireland on their Triple Crown and to France on their Six Nations and Grand Slam. We'll do a team of the tournament at some point once I've had a little bit of time to crunch more numbers and whatnot. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.